It is Combine Week. Basically, stage one of the NFL draft process is here in Indianapolis. We'll tell you all about it, plus what to expect, and a whole lot more. Coming up on Monday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, February 26, 2024.
Just win. Just win. Just win. Just win.
The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you round and upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won. And won. And won. And won. And won.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. To get the latest edition of the show as soon as it becomes available, as always, if you're checking us out on YouTube, thank you. Maybe today's the first day that you're listening to us or checking us out on YouTube because the fact that the podcast isn't being published until a little bit later on. Normally, it's available right after midnight, but because we are changing our services or our servers, we're going to be pushing back a little bit. But that's just a today thing. That will not be a forever thing. So we'll get back to the midnight kickoffs, or midnight publishing of the podcast just on the audio way. But this is a good opportunity for you to check us out on the YouTube page. If you check us out on YouTube on the regular, thank you in a major way. The show has grown so much. My man Ari does a fantastic job each and every day making sure we're on YouTube, we're looking good, and we're sounding good. Big shout out to Ari. You can check him out on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And, of course, we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693. We'll get your calls and texts coming up in segment number 3 of today's show. Segment number 2, I'm in Indianapolis, arrived on Sunday. Travel, no problem. It's very rare that your boy says the traveling was no problem, but it was no problem. Was able to make it to Indianapolis, left Las Vegas very early in the morning, around 4:45 Sunday morning. Was able to get, settled in Indianapolis and got everything taken care of. So good to go, ready to tackle this Combine week. So there's a couple questions that I have, and I don't know if I'll get the answer to them this week, but there are a couple of questions that I really would love the answer to, or love to get a little bit closer to knowing what the answer to these questions will be. So about 3 questions, maybe 4 questions I'll hit you with in segment number 2 that I'm looking forward to. Here in segment number 1, I always hit you with the news and the notes of the day, whatever I was able to collect over the weekend to bring to the podcast to start the week off the right way. So we'll jump right into it after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started today. Off top, the NFL announced on Friday that the salary cap went up from $224.8 million in 2023 to $255.4 million. $30 million. I got this alert on my phone on Friday. I was at the Raiders facility doing it was a Black History Month kind of, a thing with the high schoolers around the Las Vegas area. It was really cool to be there and be a part of the event. But all of a sudden that alert came through and that tweet came through from Adam Schefter saying how much the salary cap went up. And all I could say, I looked around to everyone and said, $30 million. And people are looking at me like, yeah, Q, we don't have any idea what you're talking about. But that's all I could keep thinking of was $30 million. That's a massive salary cap, just a raise in the salary cap. I mean, it was expected to go up, right? But it wasn't expected to go up $30 million. That was probably about $7 to $8 million more than most people expected. And it's funny, when I start looking at those numbers, obviously that's a $30 million raise for every team across the league, all 32. But when I look at the Raiders in particular, who are already sitting in really good position, about $45 million, I had mentioned the other day on the show that they can, if they want to, get up somewhere near around $70 million in cap space. I look at that extra savings at $7 to $8 million more than they were expecting to get, and I look at that, that's the difference in a Josh Jacobs. Holding on to a Josh Jacobs and not. Now, I don't know if that's what they're going to do with the extra money, but I feel like that just kind of solidifies and seals the deal. Hey, now you have even more money to go ahead and make sure you get bell cow 1, right? Running back 1. Go get Josh Jacobs. He's done everything that you've asked him to do. No matter who it was, no matter what coaching staff it was, if it was John Gruden, if it was Rich Bisaccia, if it was Josh McDaniels, if it was Antonio Pierce. He's done everything that everyone has asked him to do. He's the guy, the engine that makes the team go, just like Antonio Pierce has said many times. I know Tom Telesco didn't put a whole lot of money into Austin Eckler. He did give him a contract extension, but he didn't put a boatload of money, so I'm sure he's still going to be very smart about what they do with the running back position in the contract. But I really see no reason now, especially with the extra money that they got on this salary cap, why the Raiders can't just seal the deal with Josh Jacobs. I feel like that there's no reason not to. So that was the big news of the day on Friday, just the fact that the salary cap went up $50 million. And the NFL said that the unprecedented $30 million increase per club in this year's salary cap is the result of the full repayment of all the amounts advanced by the clubs and deferred by the players during the COVID pandemic, as well as extraordinary increase in media revenue for the 2024 season. So what it means at the end, extraordinary increase in media revenue, streaming, and more streaming. Streaming services, TV, that TV money is all what he's talking about right there. So that's a lot of money when anyone tells you, I'm not going to watch the NFL anymore, or I don't like it, oh, it's rigged, or this, that, and the other. Whatever they say, whatever complaint it is, and people tell you that they're not going to watch, they're wrong. They're lying. The NFL is alive and well. Everybody's watching, and that $30 million increase on the salary cap just proves it. They're not giving that kind of money away if they're not making that kind of money. Also, on Friday, the Raiders solidified their actual coaching staff for 2024. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of time with it, but I will go over it really quickly because they did send out the whole list of the coaches on the staff for 2024. And I'll say this, it is a lot of coaches on the staff. Antonio Pierce, head coach. Marvin Lewis is the assistant head coach. Matt Sheldon, game management coach. I like that. I like that addition. That's a coach that the Raiders have not had on their sidelines or on their staff before. I like that. Having that game management, that, the challenge flag guy, the in-game adjustments, some of the last, the clock adjustments type situations, situational football. I like that. Matt Sheldon is that guy. Offensively, Luke Getsy is the OC. Edgar Bennett, wide receiver. Obviously, he's been the longtime coach there on the Raiders staff, but he returns as a wide receivers coach. James Craig is the offensive line coach. Joe Philbin, senior offensive assistant. DeAndre Pierce, that's Antonio Pierce's son. He's the offensive assistant. Rich Scangarello is the quarterback's coach. We had talked about that last week. Mitch Singler, assistant tight ends coach. Luke Steckel, tight ends coach. Scott Turner is the passing game coordinator. Fred Walker is the assistant quarterback's coach. Carnell Cadillac Williams, running backs coach. And Tim Yetz is the assistant offensive coach. So there you go, some names right there. Again, not going to spend a whole lot of time with it, not breaking down every single one of the guys just because, their names and their coaches, and they've been there and done that. So defensively, defensive coordinator Patrick Graham. Gerald Alexander is the safeties coach. Mike Caldwell, run game coordinator and linebackers coach. I think that's a big one because he was a former defensive coordinator. Andre Carter, pass rush specialist. Matt Feeney is the assistant defensive backs coach. Rob Leonard returns as defensive line coach. That's a good one. Marcus Lewis, assistant linebackers coach. Ricky Manning Jr., the pride of Fresno. Edison High, cornerbacks coach. Josh Phillips is the assistant defensive coach. And Rob Bryan, senior defensive assistant. Special teams, Tom McMahon, special teams coordinator. Cade Rannings is assistant special teams. And Darius Swinton, assistant special teams as well. Strength and conditioning, A.J. Nibel. He's the head strength and conditioning coach. He's been that guy for a while. DeAnthony Batiste, assistant strength and conditioning. Deuce Gruden returns, assistant strength and conditioning. And Rick Slate, also assistant strength and conditioning. So those are all the coaches on the Raiders staff for 2024. No Hugh Jackson. I was pretty surprised by that he wasn't that guy. But I guess when Joe Philbin became that senior offensive assistant, that was the role that Hugh Jackson would have filled. That, again, I thought he was going to be that guy. When he was on Radio Row for Super Bowl 58, I just pretty much knew he was about to announce that he was going to be a Raiders coach, and it looked like it was really close. Many people believed it was close, and it just never happened. So, I don't know how that fell apart, but Hugh Jackson, as of right now, is not part of the Raiders coaching staff. So that's what I got for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Kind of news and notes over the weekend. Also, and you know that I'm here in Indy. I have arrived, and I'm excited about this week at the Combine. So what do I expect? What do I want to learn about the Combine or learn about this Raiders team from the Combine experience? I'll tell you about that coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about the title sponsor of today's show, which is FanDuel. And I know that it's always exciting to bet when it's the NFL season and the NFL season is in the books. But the NBA season is here. You can get buckets right now with your first bet on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins, just like that. You can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and a whole lot more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. You're guaranteed to miss a shot you don't take. FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Now that I'm here in Indianapolis at the Combine, was excited to be here last year and didn't really know what to expect. It was my first time being at the Combine. Now I've been there, done that, right? So now I know how to go in and attack this combine. So I'm excited about that. Arrived a little bit early. I didn't get here till late Monday night last year. Arrived on Sunday afternoon, as a matter of fact. Kind of got my bearings, got the house in order. You'll see the podcast come to you live from this loft that I'm in. I don't know if you can see it behind me. It's not really a whole lot. It's just kind of a little loft, but it's pretty cool because it's separate. It's all by itself. It's kind of like a hidden spot in this house that I have here in Indianapolis as an Airbnb action. But yeah, I'm excited about it. And, of course, it gets started early in the morning, so we'll go ahead and have plenty of, kind of news and notes and a lot of different great sound from the combine and talking to coaches and GMs. And we're expected to talk to Tom Telesco on Tuesday. Antonio Pierce is either going to be on Tuesday or Wednesday as well, but that'll be at a private location, just be a handful of us. So that's something good to look forward to. And then, of course, the players. That's what it's all about. I was actually on a Southwest flight on my way to Indianapolis with a handful of players. I mean, it was packed. I flew from Vegas to Phoenix and then from Phoenix to Indianapolis. And, I mean, the plane was maxed out. I usually upgrade my ticket. I wasn't able to upgrade my ticket once I got there because it was sold out. And I'll tell you, there was probably about 10 to 15 players alone just on that Southwest flight headed to Indianapolis for the combine. So you can see that they were excited. I was pretty excited. It was early in the morning, though, so I was a little bit tired. But, whenever you get an opportunity to be able to be at an event like this where you know that the NFL draft process is really beginning here, that's something to get fired up and get excited about. So what do I need to learn? What do I want to learn? What am I trying to learn about the Raiders in this whole process during this week? Well, the first one, I think, is the most important question. How does GM Tom Telesco and head coach Antonio Pierce view this team? Like, how close does Antonio Pierce think this team is to being that team that compete with the Kansas City Chiefs? And how close does Tom Telesco view it as he's now gone over the roster, right? I mean, he came into this process late. At least Antonio Pierce, he was the head coach for the last 9 weeks of the season. So he kind of knows the pulse of the team. He already knows, the ins and outs and how it works. And I think that this is a good thing with Champ Kelly staying on, even though he's not the GM, he's the assistant GM like he was. I think that that's going to help Tom Telesco because, again, he comes in late to the process. So he had to go through the roster, see what fits, see what doesn't fit. Obviously, we'll find out who he re-signs. The Raiders have 17 of their own free agents, so we'll see who he brings back and who he doesn't. But you'll learn a lot about this team throughout the course of the week, especially when we get a chance to talk to Tom Telesco and kind of see what he's thinking and see who he's really kind of looking at and gauging his interest, because it's two different worlds. Like, one could think that this team is really close to competing with the Kansas City Chiefs, who are the back-to-back Super Bowl champions, and one could think that, yeah, this team needs to have what a rebuild, right? It's not close at all, and they need to really hit the reset button. I don't think that that's going to happen. I think that anyone watching the game and watching the team realizes that they have a lot more talent than being a rebuild. But I also didn't think that it was going to be a rebuild when Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels took over. So I would love to know, and again, we talked to Tom Telesco on Tuesday, and we'll talk to AP either on Tuesday or Wednesday. Just get the questions to them. We haven't had a chance to talk to Telesco ever since he's been hired. We got to talk to him at his introductory press conference, and that was it. And that was just real briefly, and that was nothing like a intimate Q&A. That was more just a, here's the microphone, he's at the podium, and let it rip. At least we're going to get some actual real time with him so we can start to pick his brain on where he thinks his Raiders roster is. But you want to have those two guys on the same page. And, again, I think Champ Kelly may be the X factor in there because he really knows all these players really well on the roster and kind of knows what makes them go and what they can get out of them if they hit their ceiling, if they haven't hit their ceiling, what the case may be. I believe personally that this team is really close to where it needs to be. I think it's a couple players on defense and a quarterback away from being a real deal threat in the AFC West. But that's me. I'm not pulling the trigger on anything in that organization. All I'm doing is sitting from the outside, watching and observing and speaking on. That's it. So I can't answer those questions. But Tom Telesco and AP can. And so that's going to be one of the big things that we ask this week. At least I know I'll try to allude to this week here at the Combine. The next question, what do the medicals look like for Michael Penix Jr.? And why I say that is we all talk about the Raiders trading up to the top 3 to go get Jaden Daniels, and that would be scenario number 1 for me. That's exactly what I want. That's the player that I want. That's the quarterback that I think makes everything go. But there's a chance that doesn't happen. Not because the Raiders don't want to do it, but because the Patriots don't want to move out of that spot, or Washington doesn't want to move off that number 2 spot, or Chicago doesn't want to move off that number 1 spot. Like we've said it so many times, you've got to have 2 to tango. So if that doesn't happen, there could be a chance that the Raiders are in a situation where Michael Penix Jr. is on the board when they pick. What do the medicals look like? You know, the one thing that I do like about Michael Penix a lot, and something that everybody who's talked about him or covered him has said, and I had Ben Glassmeyer on my radio show, Unnecessary Roughness, Raider Nation Radio 920 on Friday, and, you know, I asked him what Daniel Jeremiah said. A team that has a strong run game and wants to stretch the field vertically would be the ideal place for him to go. And I asked Ben that. He said, yeah, that's perfect. He needs a strong run game. In the national championship game against Michigan, you know why they struggled? Because Dylan Johnson wasn't available. Dylan Johnson was their stud running back. He was out there, but he was just out there. He wasn't really available because he got banged up in the semifinal game against Texas. I mean, he got injured really badly, so he did everything he could to be out there, but he wasn't effective. So they need, and he needs, Michael Penix Jr. needs a strong run game. So what do the medicals look like? His medicals are going to be so important this week. That'll probably be one of the biggest storylines coming out of the combine as far as guys that are draft eligible. Now, when it comes to vets, it'll be Justin Fields. Justin Fields will be the biggest conversation here this week. I anticipate that. There's reports out there that the Raiders are interested in trading for him. I know that a couple people put that out. I don't see that. I haven't heard that. We'll ask questions that, you know, maybe we can start to get some answers to that this week as well. But that's one of the least things on my mind because I just don't see that happening. But as far as draft eligible quarterbacks, you know, option 2 may really end up being Michael Penix. I know there's other options too. Like there's the top three quarterbacks in tier 1, and then the next 3, right? There's Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels in whatever order you want to put them. Then there's you got J.J. McCarthy, you got Bo Nix, and you got Michael Penix Jr. in whatever order you want to put them. But that medical for Michael Penix is what's really gives him the opportunity to be separated from the other guys. He's got a very strong arm. We know that. He can stretch the field with that arm, man, and he could throw the deep ball. That's a pretty ball, right? I could envision him in the silver and black and stretching that field. It would be awesome. But what do the medicals look like? That's going to be, you know, that's going to really determine where he's going to go. Is he going to be a first-round guy? Is he going to be, a second-round guy? Is he going to be a late first-round guy, early first-round guy? Those medicals are going to tell the story. And then third of all, does New England have any desire to trade out of the number 3 spot? Right? I mean, because that's the thing. We all talk about what it will take to get from 13 to 3. And I asked the question to Daniel Jeremiah, what was it taking to get to first, get to number 3? And he rolled it out what it would be. But does New England want to do that? Because they need a quarterback too. Gerard Mayo is the new head coach there, right? So what is he thinking? You know, they've got a new offensive coordinator there in Alex Van Pelt. What is he feeling? They got a new GM there in Elliott Wolf. You know that Wolf name. What is he thinking, right? I mean, so the New England Patriots might have no interest at all of trading out the number 3 spot. How do we find that out? Start asking questions. So those are the 3 questions that I'll be asking. As a matter of fact, if, in fact, I guess I can say 4 questions. If New England does have a desire to trade out of that number 3 spot, do the Raiders have the stones to move into it? Do the Raiders have the stones to say, you know what? We're going to roll the dice and go get our guy right now. We believe that guy right there is our guy, and let's go get him. I would do it. You know, I mean, obviously I'm not in that position where I have to do it, but if I had to, I think it's a good thing. I think that they should do it. I think a lot of Raider Nation believes they should do it. They should go get Jaden Daniels if he's available at number 3. I'll say this week, he might not be a number 3 quarterback. After this week, he might be solidified as number 2. Hell, he might be solidified as number 1 based off the interviews, right? Because that's the other thing that's important here is the interviews. We all could look at the film and see the quarterbacks and how they could play. We all know Caleb is fantastic. Jaden Daniels just won the Heisman Trophy, so that tells you all you need to know about him. Drake May is fantastic. The interview process is going to say a lot. And obviously, like I mentioned before, the medicals with Michael Penix Jr. is also going to tell us a lot. So those are the questions that I have. 3 questions that really a fourth if in fact the Patriots do have some kind of interest of trading out of that number 3 spot. Do the Raiders have the stones to go move into that number 4 spot? I think they should. But again, that's not me. That's a Tom Telesco, Champ Kelly, AP. That's their situation that they got to come up with. And I'll tell you what, there'll be a lot of conversation about it this week. There's a lot of business that's going to be happening here in Indianapolis. And I know the new league year has not opened up yet, but I would just about guarantee we'll come out of this week with a good idea that Justin Fields is going to get traded, and we'll probably have a really good idea where he's going to get traded to. And we might even know if New England wants to trade out of 3 or Washington out number 2 or even Chicago out number 1. A lot of that could happen this week. I still won't forget when the news of Jalen Carter hit last year at the Combine, and I remember exactly where I was when it hit, and I had ESPN Chicago sitting right behind me at the booth, and they had the number 1 overall pick, and they were going to take Jalen Carter until Well, until that news came out, then they all of a sudden started talking about it. Ryan Poles, the GM, was literally walking around when that happened, and so he had a lot of questions that he had to answer, and there was a lot of questions that was surrounding Jalen Carter because nobody really knew what was going on with the young man, that he had to go all the way back to Atlanta and turn himself in for that car accident that unfortunately and tragically killed a teammate and also a team manager there of the Georgia Bulldogs. So a lot's going to go down this week. I can promise you that here at the Combine. And the good thing is I'm here. I'm here all week long. Don't go back till Saturday. So I'm here all week long to cover it and bring it to you here on the Locked On Raiders podcast. What's on your mind? Your calls and texts are coming up next. 707-654-4693. Your calls and texts is segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about one of the great sponsors here on the Locked On Raiders podcast, which is BetterHelp. A lot of us spend our lives wishing we had more time. I know I, for one, do. People tell me all the time, Q, I don't know how you get so much done in a 24-hour day. I don't either. A lot of times I try to find a way to cheat an hour or get an extra hour, try to create 25 hours in a 24-hour day. And I know I make a joke about that, but seriously, that's what I try to do. And it really bothers me when I feel like my time is wasted. If I'm somewhere and I'm there early or I'm there on time and somebody else is late, it really drives me crazy because I know that I got so much other stuff going on. I'm already thinking about the next thing, and I'm upset because, all right, well, now some of my time has just been wasted. So sometimes I've got to realize and take a step back and say, hey, it's going to be okay. Don't try to, push yourself or punish yourself because of something that you can't control. That's one thing that can stress you out is time management. Other things that can stress you out or really get to you, really grind your gears. Maybe, decisions at a job, maybe decisions with a loved one, decisions at the house, whatever the case may be. Sometimes you just need clarity, and you need clarity from somebody and help from somebody who has no kind of skin in the game when it comes to what happens in your life. So that's where BetterHelp could come in and help you. If you're thinking about starting therapy, you should give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, which is a great thing, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. That's right up my alley. All you got to do is fill out a brief questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist, and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Learn to make time for what makes you happy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Again, BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and text, draft that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with Dominique from St. Louis. He's calling with a trade proposal to move up into the top 2 spot of the draft to go land the Raiders quarterback. Here he is, Dominique from St. Louis.
Hey, Q, this is Dominique from St. Louis. Listen to you every day, man. Big fan. Thanks for all you do. Hey, I got a quick trade proposal I would like your thoughts on. In order to trade up into the top 2 of the draft to get Jaden Daniels, tell me what you think about this. Malcolm Kuntz, Jacoby Myers, Divine Diablo, first and a third this year, and a first next year. Do you think that's too much? Do you still think that's not enough? That's in order to move up into the top 2 of the draft. Let me know what you think about that, man. I'll be listening. Thanks a lot.
Dominique, appreciate the call. I'm from the Loop, and I'm proud. I just saw, it's funny, when I was riding into Indianapolis after I got off the plane, got my rental car, was headed to the Airbnb, I saw the sign that says St. Louis, and that's like the second time I've seen the sign that says St. Louis. Last year at the Combine. So there's that. But shout out to you, Dominique. Appreciate you. Kuntz, Diablo, Jacoby Myers, first and a third in 2024 and a first in 2025. I mean, I like the idea of getting aggressive. Don't get me wrong. Trading up to go get your guy. Do what it takes to go get your guy. I don't want to give all that talent away. I don't want to give guys like Kuntz, who just really started to scratch the surface last season, really came on strong. Diablo played really strong alongside, Robert Spillane. Jacoby Myers, what a fantastic pickup he was, right? I don't want to give that up. I'd rather the Raiders give up draft capital and make whoever they give the draft capital to, make them go find their own gems, go find their own players, get their own talent, right? As opposed to giving multiple players away that are really good. So, again, I love the aggressiveness to go up and get your quarterback because you need to have that guy. But I'd rather the other team do their work instead of the Raiders trading away all their guys. Kuntz, Diablo, Jacoby Myers. Those are all really good players that I don't want to see let them get out of the mix. Kuntz is the guy that's probably going to need a contract extension. If I'm the Raiders, I'd probably try to do that this offseason if I can get it done. If he is cool with it, I try to go ahead and get that done before he has another season like he had last year, then all of a sudden wants to break the bank. Diablo is still a really good player. Jacoby Myers is still under contract. I wouldn't want to trade any of those guys, to be honest. But, I know the price of business. Sometimes you have to put a little sugar on things and maybe put another player into the mix that you might not want to move on from. But, again, sometimes that's the price of doing business. Dominique, thanks so much for the call. I appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Chase in Ogden, Utah. Says, hey, Q, it's Chase from Ogden. I think some of Raider Nation needs to watch J.J. McCarthy again. He is just not that good. He's a mobile game manager, a poor man's Baker Mayfield. And the argument that they try that he's a winner needs to stop. We remember the last regime, and a good portion of Raider Nation tried to convince us another game winner and Jimmy G would be an upgrade for the team. How'd that work out? Anyway, stay well, Q. Raiders. That's Chase in Ogden, Utah. And I think that J.J. McCarthy is probably going to be the biggest mystery of this whole draft, right? How do teams view him? I've done many interviews on my radio show, Unnecessary Roughness, on Radio Nation Radio 920, and talk to guys that are like, no, J.J. McCarthy's really good. He's a lot better than people give him credit for. And then I talk to other people that are like, yeah, he's just okay. He's just a game manager. And so I think this week his interview process with the teams is going to go a long way so they can kind of learn who he is. Obviously, the drills on the field will show a little bit, but, again, you can go back and look at the film and see what he does. He did win a lot. He won a whole lot in college, right? And then obviously won a national championship as well. Wasn't asked to do a whole lot, but I kind of feel like he did what he was asked to do and probably could do more than that. But it's a big mystery, and I don't know. And that's why I think he's going to probably be the biggest mystery of this whole draft process, especially out of all the quarterbacks. It's going to be one of those, is he or isn't he? And, well, we might not find out anytime soon. Thanks so much for that text. I appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Brian in Vegas. He's calling to talk about the draft, train up to get a guy, but not sure who, and also questions the offensive line. Here he is, Brian in Vegas.
Hey, your boy Q. This is Brian from East Vegas. A lot of people are saying we should trade up. If we think it's a generational talent, we should trade up. But no one wants to say who we should trade up for. Everybody keeps saying we should do this, we should do this, we should do this, but no one's saying who we should do this for. Everybody wants to see something happen, but no one wants to say what should happen. People are just complaining and looking, and no one's thinking. What people should be thinking is it truly a generational talent that we have in this draft? Or are we saying this is our time to pick somebody that we think might be generational, and this guy is here because we want to do it now instead of waiting till we think the best time has come? And other people saying that the thing that happens most to early big draft picks is that the quarterback doesn't have any protection. He doesn't have time to get the ball out. The weapons that he had won't be able to use because the line. So why would we go out and get our generational quarterback with a mildly generational line and get him hurt, and it doesn't matter in the end? So we have to start over again in 4 years because we've given up 3 years worth of picks. I just don't see it, and I don't see PT and AP risking their jobs for the next 2 years and their whole career because they hope Jaden Daniels or whomever might be generational this year, and we don't want to wait to make sure someone else isn't anywhere near better behind it. I just see it that way. Tell me what you think if you're listening. All right. Go Raiders.
Brian, thanks for the call. Appreciate you, and I got to disagree 100%. I think plenty of people have said who they prefer. I know for me, I've said for quite a while, Jaden Daniels is my guy. I've made no mistake about it. You mentioned Jaden Daniels as well, but I mentioned Jaden Daniels a long time ago. And there's some that say trade up to number 1 to go get Caleb Williams. Some have said Drake May. Others have talked about guys like J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix, Bo Nix. I mean, I don't think that there's any question. I think a lot of people know exactly who they want to trade up for, and that is Jaden Daniels. I think a lot of people know that, and especially recognize that connection between Jaden and Antonio Pierce. I love his talent. I think he is generational. I'm not saying he's Patrick Mahomes, but I think that he's a guy that can help the Raiders compete with them, especially with the Raiders' defense that they have. He's got wiggle with his legs. He's got a strong and accurate arm. He's got to do a better job of getting out of harm's way as far as taking big hits, and I'm talking about while he's running, right? I mean, he took some hits where you just can't do that. That'll get hit out the league. You just can't do that. And even Devontae Adams had mentioned, he said, hey, he's out there taking hits like he's 17. He needs to go out there and take hits like he's a quarterback. Learn to get down like Lamar Jackson does. Lamar very rarely gets blown up. That's the one thing that concerns me about Jaden Daniels. You go back and look at the college film, he got hit a lot of times that I was like, whoa, that's a kill shot, right? You can't take that shot, especially in the league. You can't do that. So that's an area of his game he's going to have to definitely improve. But, yeah, if you can go get Jaden Daniels, I'm all in for it. And you can't be scared to say, well, if it doesn't work, then, okay, then you're going to set the team back. Look, at some point you're going to have to make that move. You're either going to do it or you're not, right? Antonio Pierce to me, seems like the kind of guy that's not going to have any hesitation to put his job on the line for something that he believes. He's done it before with Max Crosby, and when he was injured against the Chiefs and he still let him go out there and play, and he said, hey, I gotta manage this correctly. My job's on the line. But he trusted Max and trusted the whole situation, and obviously it worked out just fine. So thanks so much for that call. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Joey C. out of Stockton. He's talking about the call that we had. I believe he's calling about Oh no, I know he's calling. He's calling to talk. He's texting to talk about what Greeny had to say about AP and talking about the Mahomes rules and me going on kind of a rant about it. He says, Q, I got to channel that Coach Prime on this one. You know you finna get blown up after that bull junk, man. What is the heck is that? It's football, dude. When I was in high school, I started off as defensive tackle. JV year, my coach says, Joey, go play defensive end. I was like, Coach, I've never played that position. What do I do? And he said, you know what the hell he tells me, Q? Unless somebody gets in your way, I want you to kill the quarterback every single time. Sacks are a stat, are they not? Are they going to ban sacking in the NFL? Now, because of the golden child, Brady didn't even get that privilege. And as much as I dislike Brady, if anyone earned that privilege, it's him. That's Joey C. from Stockton. So, yeah, he was talking about Greeny was just talking nonsense. And I don't know if you heard it, but if you go back and listen to the Friday edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, you can hear it where he's talking about what Roger Goodell should do. He's going to call Antonio Pierce and say, you want to take our guy out, we're going to give you a 15-yard penalty. I mean, just a bunch of, like he said, bull junk. It was terrible. It was awful. I couldn't believe it. I had to kind of put him on blast because that was such a bad take that Greeny had. But Joey C., thanks so much for the text. Definitely appreciate you. Got time for one more. How about this call from the 203? He's calling to talk about the idea of trading Max Crosby and why he respectfully disagrees with that idea 100%.
Hey, Q, how's it going? I'm going to keep it quick this time. This is regarding the call about Max Crosby. We trade him. No. Respectfully disagree as well. I'll give kudos, man. Took some big cojones, to come out here and big balls to come out here and say, yeah, let's not make Max untouchable. Let's not see Max as untouchable. That took some guts to say that. But whenever I want to think about this, anyone that maybe is in that camp, after we did trade Mac, our defense was tremendously bad. We didn't get turnovers. We didn't get sacks. You remember? I don't remember what the streak was. I don't remember if it was 10, 16. I don't remember how many games. But we went on I'm pretty sure at least double-digit game streak without a turnover until we signed Navarro Bowman off of his couch, I'm pretty sure. I don't think we traded for him. Excuse me. He was a free agent. He was old. I think he retired a year or two after that. My point is, we talked about cutting head off the snake, and not everyone, but a couple people again are all up about it, in media. But Crosby's the head of our snake on defense, and I think that, like you said, he is the franchise. I think it would be a disservice to Raider Nation. I think it would be a disservice to the fan base. Repeat myself. It'd be a disservice to the team, to the coaches, to Mark Davis, to Las Vegas in and of itself. It'd be a disservice to Oakland and L.A. No, Max is that guy. Max is that dude. I'd take him over any quarterback any day of the week except for maybe that guy that plays on the most hated team from my perspective. You could probably put two and two together. Who I'm talking about there. Anyways, love the show, man. Big respect to the guy for coming out and saying that call. Everyone has their own opinion, but you know what they say about that. Keep rocking, man. Love what you do. And yeah, go Raiders.
Yeah, man, it's a no-brainer. I believe my man TK actually texted or called in with that late last week on Friday and said that it's not going to be popular, but that's what I think needs to happen. Yeah, Max is untouchable. If anything, he is the only player on that roster that's untouchable. He's the face of the franchise. The Raiders go as he goes. There's no way you move that guy, right? He is the heartbeat, the soul I know that Josh Jacobs gets it done offensively, but defensively and really throughout the whole team, Max Crosby is that dude. Max Crosby makes everyone go a little bit harder, get a little bit more pumped up. I mean, he is like, he's him. Like the kids would say, he's him. So, yeah, he's untouchable as far as I'm concerned. And if anything, he's probably the only untouchable guy, but he's untouchable as far as I'm concerned. That was kind of a quick one. Let's go ahead and get one more in. A text from Canadian Raider. It says, AQ, Canadian Raider here. Been a long minute since I messaged in. Was hoping we can make a trade. Maybe I can give you a little hope. Then you can give me some. On your Friday show, you said maybe the Patriots don't want to trade down. Here's my hope. J.J. McCarthy just absolutely screams Patriots to me. And hearing DJ say interesting option for someone in the 12 to 14 pick range, dang. Here's where I need some hope. All on board with AP. Plus, Graham and Lewis, too. My worry is offense. Getsy was hated in Chicago, saying all he knew was screenplays. And his helper is Philbin. I'm just nervous. I mean, why couldn't we have some gone with Bieniemy or someone else? I need some hope. Chicago was dancing when they let him go. That's Canadian Raider. Thanks for the text. I appreciate you. And, yeah, I mean, who knows what the Patriots want to do, right? Matt Miller had a really good point the other day from ESPN saying that the Patriots offensive line is a mess. They don't have any weapons. If they go and draft a quarterback right now, they'll basically be doing what they did in Carolina to Bryce Young. They'll be setting him up for failure, and that's already 1 year off his contract. So he said they shouldn't draft a quarterback at all. But doesn't mean that they won't. Because, again, how often do you expect to be in the position to go draft a guy who's a top-tier quarterback? So that's the reason why they would. Maybe, I don't know. I can't say who is a Patriot-type guy because it's a new regime. It's a new staff, right? I mean, you got Gerard Mayo now. You got Alex Van Pelt now as the offensive coordinator. He comes over from Cleveland. So I don't know. I wish I could tell you that, that's not really in the MO of the Patriots. I talked to my guy Mike Debate from Locked On Patriots on Friday on my radio show, and he said, Jaden Daniels is our guy. Jaden Daniels is the guy that I think the Patriots should go get. And I was like, dang. Because in my mind, I'm thinking Jaden Daniels is the Raiders guy. So that's where I'm at. I have no idea. I wish I could give you some hope, but if I were to give you some hope right now, it'd all be false hope. And as far as the coordinators go, I think that AP has a pretty good idea of what he wants to do. And I think the coordinators have a pretty good idea of what he wants to see. Right. And so I think that they're going to do as Antonio Pierce has really set it up. I mean, they just went through the interview process, so they all have a pretty good idea. That's why I didn't get too hung up on who the coordinators were going to be. Cliff Kingsbury I thought would have been a good one. But for the most part, I think they'll be fine. The fact that they have really good experience, I think goes a goes a longer way than, just what they could do X's and O's wise on the grass. I think that just having that experience is going to help Antonio Pierce and company a whole lot more. All right, I said that was the last one, but I'll get one more. Call from Jacob at Hanford. He's calling to talk about the idea of trading up the draft from 13 to 3 and then floats the idea of going to 13 to 1. Here he is, Jacob at Hanford.
What's up, Q? This is Jacob from Hanford. It's Friday night, and I feel all right. Sorry about that. I just had to do that. I'm listening to your show on Friday night. That's the whole point of saying that. I just listened to the part, you're talking to Daniel Jeremiah, and he says, in order to move up from 13 to 3, the ideal situation right there, that what it looks like, the projection would be your 13th, your first next year, your first the year after, and then a third next year. And I'm like you, yeah, let's do that. Let's hop right on that. But then I'm saying, well, wait a second. If that's what it costs for 3, we don't know that Jaden Daniels is going to be there for 3. How much will it cost to go up to 1? Because I am of the opinion that we do not need to save out for draft picks when we get guys who fail most of the time. Most of our first round picks are failures. Most of our second round picks are failures. And I think that is kind of the norm with the league, honestly. Most people don't hit on their draft picks. So if you find a guy that you want, I think he's worth your first and second when it's a quarterback, when it's a guy that you believe is your franchise guy. He is worth first and second round picks for the next 3 years. That's my opinion. If that's what it takes to move up with Chicago, I'm of the opinion let's go do that. That's what we need to do because we need to get a franchise guy. I love Aiden. I love a lot of the things that happened with our team last year. But I think we need to move on. We need to get a guy who's serious, a guy who's a generational talent, and we'll never know unless we swing. You strike out on 100 of the swings you don't take, right? I am butchering that like crazy. I know it. But the point is, let's go get our guy. If it takes first and seconds for the next 3 years, I'm good with that. Well, I mean, we look at who we drafted first and second the last 3 years. And I know the Devontae trade kind of messes that up. But before that, give me a 3-year span where it's not worth it. I can't think of any. You know, maybe Khalil Mack and Derek Carr in 2014. But besides that, who are we drafting? Let's go and get our guy. All right, Q, appreciate what you do. Take it easy. Go Raiders.
Nice. Go on and get your Montel Jordan on. I'm okay with that, right? Go on and get it. Sound like you were having a good Friday night, my man. I ain't mad at that. Again, Jacob and Hanford. And, yeah, I was surprised when DJ said what he said it would take to get from 13 to 3. I was kind of surprised. Now, I will say this. I know what he said is based off the chart. I'm assuming that with all the quarterbacks that are in this draft and the way that it's such a hot commodity, I'm sure it's going to take a little bit more. Teams are going to ask for more than that, so they'll probably have to put a little sugar on top of it. But for the most part, that was the groundwork. You flip first round picks this year. So the Raiders would go from 13 to 3. The Patriots go from 3 to 13. You give up your first and your third in 2025, and you give up your first round pick in 2026. Maybe a first and a fifth. I can't remember exactly what it was. But yeah, I mean that's not bad at all as far as I'm concerned. That's good. That's good prices doing business. And like I said, if the Raiders had to put a little extra on top of it, I think it'd be great. To go to 13 to 1. I think that would probably be really rich, but I'm okay with them asking. What's the worst that Chicago can say? No. Or maybe Chicago says this is what it'll take, and the Raiders say, oh, that's too much. I can't do it. You're guaranteed, like you said, guaranteed to miss a shot you don't take, right? 100% of the time you're going to miss a shot you don't take. That's 100% facts. And, yeah, you butchered it a little bit, but it's okay. I'm not mad at you. But that's all I got for you for today's show. Jacob, thanks so much for that call. I do appreciate you. Going to be deep diving into this combine, man. Excited about it. Today's kind of the first day, and so it's not really a whole lot going on. We'll actually pick up our credentials on Tuesday morning, and then we'll deep dive into everything going on. Tom Telesco we'll talk to on Tuesday morning. We'll talk to AP either on Tuesday or Wednesday. But it's going to be off and running, man, all week long here in Indianapolis from the combine. So until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.